years came by, God now saw the need to give the 10 Commandments, which is the constitution of God, which has to do with the nature of God. Because for man to be in a relationship with God, man must adhere to the instructions of God. Just the way God gave Adam an instruction not to eat of a particular tree. Can two work together if there be no agreement? The 10 Commandments was a spiritual information given to man that was meant to trigger and aid man to walk in agreement with God. The backings of God can only be enacted when man, or when a set of men, are constantly living in agreement with God. So God had standards that he needed man to adhere to. So what God did was that what he began with Abraham, he now gave a man by the name Moses the 10 Commandments. When God wanted to give Moses the 10 Commandments, God called Moses to a place. That place was called Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai was a place of encounter between Moses and God. What God wanted to give to Moses cannot be given to Moses if Moses was amongst the people of Israel. God needed to separate Moses from amongst the people to the mountaintop. You see the consistency of how God operates. When God wanted to begin a covenant between him and Abraham, God separated Abraham from his tribesmen, from his family, from his nation, to a nation that he will show unto him. At the obedience of Abraham to the instructions of God, Abraham now came into a covenant with God. And so when God many years later, wanted to give the standard for living for the people of Israel, he called a man, he separated a man amongst the people of God called Moses, and he took him to the mountaintop. It was on the mountaintop that God appeared unto Moses and revealed his standard for living unto Moses. And God told Moses, you are going to write this on a tablet of stone. And so Moses wrote the 10 Commandments on a tablet. Whilst he was on the mountaintop, communing with God, interacting with God, God now began to reveal to him the code of conduct, the modus operandi that every man that is called after his name must adhere to. You cannot operate with God lawlessly. God is orderly in nature. For example, what makes you to be in a healthy relationship with someone is based on one, communication. There cannot be any healthy relationship without communication. Communication is the lifeblood of every relationship. The second factor that enhances a healthy relationship is when both of you are able to adjust to the demands of each other. For example, if you are in a relationship with me and I love you calling me by 10 p.m. the moment you adhere to that thing that I desire, that thing that I love, our relationship becomes cordial. Are we together? So, for you to be in a healthy relationship with someone, you must get to know what that person loves, what that person accepts, what that person detests. From what I love, you will get to know the things I detest, the things I don't love. From what I accept, you will get to know the things I don't accept. So the 10 Commandments was a revelation of what God accepts and what God deems as the standard for living. So God needed to separate Moses from the people of God to a place. There was a location. That location was called Mount Sinai. There are certain information you can't find about God at face value. There are certain information you can't find about God amongst the crowd. There are certain deep mysteries about God and about your life that you can only stumble and interact with when you come to the mountaintop. You cannot have access to the 10 Commandments if you are in the valley. You must come up to Mount Sinai. It was on Mount Sinai that God appeared to Moses and gave him the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments did not come to Moses while he was among the people of Israel. The 10 Commandments came when Moses separated himself to the mountaintop. Why do we fast and why do we pray? We fast and pray as a means, a medium of separation from the pleasures of this flesh, so that we can intermingle, so that we can interact with spiritual realities. What am I trying to emphasize on? In your walk with God, one of the things you must consciously have at the back of your mind is that God is not static in his operation. God's operations are evolving. That's the first thing you must saddle your mind with. God is constantly upgrading,